In today's video, I'm going to show you how to spray paint a peelable stone chip protector on your bonnet.
Zombie apocalypse.
Okay, so you can see that up to now there's been a bit of punishment and little chips in the paint from stones and rocks and so on. That's been hit up from vehicles in front of me on the road and then makes little chips in the paint. So with this whole endeavor and exercise of mine, we're going to attempt to prevent this from happening as much, especially on the front. We're not going to cover the entire bonnet, but only a front one. And this is peelable or removable, so it should go a lot easier and a lot better. Now I've wiped the bonnet, this part that I want to spray, so let's just make sure it's dry. Wipe it with a nice microfiber cloth, make sure that it's dry, then there's no water or soap or any debris of any kind that can make the paint not stick well. So once this is done, we'll continue to marking the lines, and I'll show you in a moment how I'm going to go about doing that. Okay, so for the marker, I've done some low budget engineering. I've used a marker that you usually use to mark pieces of wood with a scraping pin in the end here, but I've obviously only taped with a piece of masking tape a whiteboard marker to the tip of it and set it to the desired length. So now the idea is to, without scraping the hood, to mark it with a whiteboard marker, which is obviously easy to remove as well afterwards. So let's start marking and see how this works out. This is gonna this is gonna take some practice, and obviously we only need a guideline. It doesn't need to be completely straight all through because we're gonna mask it off with masking tape anyway. We just need to get the majority of the line straight, and if the majority of the line is straight, we can use the masking tape to just stick a straight line on it, and in that way, or in that manner, we can basically then use newspaper or anything of the sort to just cover the rest of the bonnet, so that we don't paint the incorrect parts. So that doesn't come off bad. I'm going to zoom out and stand back a bit. So that's the line, more or less straight, with the same width from the front of the bonnet all the way through. So I'm going to grab some masking tape, start masking it off, and we'll have a look at it afterwards. I think this is going to work pretty well. Okay, so I've laid out and I've stuck the outer perimeter tape, or the line tape. I've also washed off and wiped off the whiteboard marker marks, or the lines, so that the paint doesn't stick on top of them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some newspaper. You can use any type of paper, whether it's painting paper, newspaper, anything to keep the paint off the rest of the bodywork and off the grill in front. And I'm just going to mask this a decent amount around this area that we want to paint, so we don't paint the whole car other than the part that we want to. Okay, so here it goes. It's a slight bit windy today, as you can see with the papers. I did stick them down in numerous places just so it doesn't wave all over and it doesn't lift up. So we're going to start with a couple of light coats and then go over it again. 2 coats should be enough, 2 proper coats. And then while the paint is still somewhat wet, we're going to peel off the tape on top so that when it dries and peel off the tape, it doesn't peel off the whole layer of paint. So while it's still somewhat wet, we're going to peel off the tape as well. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so that does the first layer. I did just do a slight coat on the edges of the bonnet so that it doesn't show the original color on the point, but that should work out pretty decent. It looks very good so far. I don't have any complaints, but we'll wait and see the end result. And I think this is a much cheaper option than the bolt-on options or the screw-on options that you usually get. What I'm not fond of are the screws that they attach with, because they sometimes, and do not, if not always, tend to take off some of the paint off of the bonnet. You also get the sticker type which you can stick on, which works quite well, but once again, price is a bit of an issue and a virtue there. So this should be a much cheaper option. So let's give it about a minute or so and we'll apply the second coat. Okay, so now that the first coat is fairly dry, just gave it about a minute or 2 just to set, and now we're going to apply another coat. While I'm applying the coats, I'm only slightly overlapping each of them so that they cover all the area thoroughly. It might be hard to see with the bad lighting we've got here at the moment, but it is quite good coverage. We'll see it afterwards as well when we peel the tape. Then it should be quite visible that it was a thorough coverage. Just going over the edges once again, just to make sure they're also thoroughly covered. And we'll just give it about a minute again, just to fairly dry good, or just dry well enough, just so that we can still peel the tape without peeling off the paint. And we'll see how it goes. If I'm not satisfied with the results, I can always just peel the paint off and to do this again, since this is peelable paint, and we can always try again, which is the plus point. Okay, so what I've done in the meanwhile, while the paint was drying and after it's dried a fair bit, I only tore off the newspaper, so it's only the tape left on the bonnet here. So let's carefully peel this off and see how it came out. I would recommend peeling it off in a vertical manner to the line that you drew, in order to keep the paint from coming off with the tape. So let me focus a slight bit while doing this, and hopefully it works fairly well. Alright, well, the tape came off pretty easy. The edge of the paint lines did show a slight bit of a tear in it, so I might have waited a little bit too long before tearing off the tape. I'm going to try and see if I can rub this off in a more straighter line on the edges, but it's not looking too bad. Obviously the poor tape I used left some of the glue on the bonnet there, so I might have to wash that off a bit. But let's remove the rest of the paper and get the overall idea. This didn't come out too bad, not at all. Like I said, the lines are a bit uneven and looks a bit torn, like paper tears on the edges, but I'm going to try and rub them off with a bit of Scotch-Brite or something similar, just to get a bit of a smoother finish. Obviously the tape I'm going to have to wash off, but this is a fairly clear finish, and it's smooth, no runs, no bubbles, anything of the sort. I might peel this off after a while, maybe round the edges, the corners here off a bit more rounder finish, but this came out pretty good. Let me quickly wash off the tape, and we'll do a closing shot seeing what it looks like. Okay, so this is basically the end result of what it looks like. Once again, the lines are slightly torn, slightly roughed up. I'm just going to rub them out. Like you can see, this doesn't come off easily. It stays on there quite well. I did wash over that as well when I was removing the glue from the hood. Like you can see, it's just the edges that I still need to wash away a bit, but that's fine, we'll get to that. Now, in case you're wondering how peelable this paint really is, I took the liberty of beforehand painting a small little square on the side here, and the only thing I've done in the meanwhile is I just started lifting the corner. So if you slowly peel this, just grab it like so, you'll see how easily this actually peels away from your existing paint job. Just have to wash the edges off there a bit, but no damage, no permanent residue of any sort on your paint. if you peel this off carefully, it'll come off in one piece. Obviously this is very thin. This is like one layer, and the thicker you paint it, the easier it peels. Just have to wipe the edges off and wash the edges off. Like you can see, it's not difficult to come off at all. It comes off quite easily, and that's with my bare hands a little while after I've painted it, and that can wash off easily. So I would say that this was quite successful, except for the edges. That's a bit roughed up and I need to maybe clean the edges out a bit. This is quite a good idea. It's a very cheap alternative to a plastic or carbon or whatever material stone chip protector on the front of your bonnet. You can paint it fairly thick. It will stop the stones chipping your paint on the point where the most of the chips happen most of the time, and this will save you money. It's easy to do, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So if you like this video and you like the ideas and the crazy little adventures that we go on, or the endeavors that we take, please like this video. Please consider subscribing also. So see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.